Good morning chaps, it's Mark from Overland USA. This morning we're going to be installing the Prinsu Roof Rack on my 2020 Ford Ranger FX4. It's a model with the full size cab and the 4 doors. A little bit nervous as we have to drill 10 holes in the roof, so hopefully we'll put them in the right place and not convert the cab into a shower. My buddy Galen is coming over to help, so as soon as he gets here we'll make a start. Step 1 is interesting. You have to partially assemble the rack. It didn't come with any instructions at all. I did print some online, and they actually show a connection where you have a bolt, a lock washer and a washer, but then they cross out the washer and say use the supplied thread sealer, which is here, something called Vibratite. I've never heard of it before, and to be honest, it sounds like something you buy in an adult entertainment store, but that's another matter. So I'll move on with the assembly. I don't think I'll film it because it's pretty boring. Okay guys, I've got most of the first side installed. Just a few notes. It does tell you the torque setting to tighten these bolt to. It says 37 to 43 inch-pounds, which is 3 foot-pounds. It does tell you the heads will shear off between 15 to 20 foot-pounds. I don't have a torque wrench that goes as low as 3 foot-pounds. Maybe my buddy Galen will bring one over. A few other things, there are slots on the side here, and there's nothing in the instructions about where these rails should go, whether they should go in these long slots and move them or go in here. So I put them in the smaller slots so they're equidistant. I can always move them later or buy more tracks. Something else at this end, there are also 2 holes here, as well as a slot. There's nothing in the installation guide about which to use. If you flip through later on, you'll see a page where they all appear to be in the lower slots. And the final thing, this is just regular 80/20 extruded aluminium, as you can see. One of the things though, it does have some slots cut into one side of it. So that's going to be for sliding fasteners in. So make sure you put that on the side where you want to place the fasteners. I'm assuming for most people, it's going to be facing upwards because there's not a lot of room to put fasteners underneath it. But if you do want to put fasteners underneath, then make sure it faces down. On the back, I've faced it in instead of facing out, largely because I don't think there's anything I'll be able to hang from it. I can always flip it around later if I want to. So that's just a few notes about the install. Not overly impressed with the quality of the documentation so far. We'll see how the rest goes. So now we're getting on to the installation of the wind deflector. You can buy this with a cutout for an LED light bar. I chose not to. So this kind of sucks. They give you silver 80/20 extruded aluminium. I know the anodized black stuff is a little bit more expensive because I've done quite a few projects with that, but it kind of sucks. Everything's black and then they give you one thing in silver. Anyway, the way this mounts is by using these little slots that you slide in, and there's 5 in total, so you just slide them in, align them with the holes and attach it. Quick installation tip for you, for those of you who've never worked with a extruded aluminium before, these connectors are a real pain to put in if you put them in the channel first and then try and attach this, because once you've got one connector you can't lift up the other ones to see where they should go to align the bolt with the nut. So the best thing is to install them all first really loosely, so you can see there's a gap between the piece of metal and the threaded nut, and then you can just slide that into the aluminium channel, and all you have to do is align them so that they're parallel, and it's way easier than trying to line them up after the fact. So if you're installing this, that's a good tip. How I normally install these, sometimes you can do it by inverting the piece upside down, but with a light piece like this it's pretty easy to do it. So you get your hand underneath and you can push those up, make sure they're parallel, and then just slide the aluminum slot. And there we go. This is my buddy Galen. He's helping me with the install. He and I are both perfectly qualified to this, him being in banking, me being in software, but we do pay professional mechanics and fabricators on the internet, so let's see how this all goes. So step 1 is we've got to remove the trim on the roof, and then we've got to start taking down the interior trim and then drilling holes. So step one is removing the grab handle on the passenger side. So you need a trim removal tool.
$6 right?
Yep. And the sun visor comes out with a 7mm wrench.
There'll be a wire.
So the sun visor, the bracket just moves forward and down, and be careful because there is a wire in there for the mirror. The release is inside the black tape, so you can either cut the tape or just push through the tape to release the retention clip. The next thing is to remove the weather stripping. So just basically pull it, and then we have to move the trim on the A pillar, and be careful because there is an airbag inside here, and it just pulls out. And now you've got to remove the seatbelt holder from the C pillar, so the trim just pops off. And then you need a T50 Torx to remove the seatbelt holder. Alright, the next thing is just pull back the trim on the C-pillar.
It's plastic pop rivets.
The things that sound like they're always going to break and frequently do. And now we're going to remove the trim, so just get a trim removal tool and lever it up. And it is held down with glue in the middle, so it needs a bit of persuasion. Like everything, it feels like it's going to break. And voila, one piece of trim removed. So it may look like we've just put a ultra plush Broham top on this, but no, it's just a cargo blanket so we don't scratch the paintwork as we're lifting the rack on and off. Here's a sneak preview of my rear seat delete project. Hopefully we'll be making a full video about this in the upcoming weeks. And there it is, install is almost finished. All we need now is some duct tape and tie wraps, and we'll have this wrapped up in about 10 minutes. These instructions are absolutely terrible. It says to drill out the back one and install a plus nut. Then we come over here and it shows only 2 additional fasteners. Then it comes down here and we've got 5. The problem is when we look at the fasteners, we've got 2 different types. So we're assuming the taller ones go 1 each at the front, back and the middle, and then the shorter silver ones go on the additional slots on the middle and the front. Okay, so we just put some foam insulation here just to move the airbag away while we drill this hole. So we're going to put some silicone around the plus nut.
Liberal amount.
Alright, it's liberal enough. Putting the plus nut into the hole. Then you're going to hold the hex coupler with a 1/2 inch wrench and tighten it down with a 1/2 inch, sorry, 7/16.
7/16.
going to drill the holes for the other mounting points, and we're making sure we move the airbag away before we start drilling. We're going to start with a small pilot hole. So it should go slow. So we started off with a small bit to make a pilot hole, and then we switched to a taper bit because it cuts through faster, and the big benefit of the taper bit is it will stop at every taper, so you don't end up going through too fast, because you really have to watch for the airbags here. Okay. So we finished the pilot hole, and now we're going on with the taper bit down to 3/8. We did also use some cutting oil fluid here. It does seem to help quite a bit. But the one thing, these ones around the B pillar, they're really close to the airbag, and you've got to be super careful. The ones at the front and the back are not too bad. You can hold the airbags out of the way, but this one. And then two of them use the silver riv nuts are really horrible to put in. I just don't understand why they give you 4 cheap, crappy ones instead of 10 of the good ones. It makes no sense at all. But here we go. We got it all bolted back on. Now we're doing is make sure it's all aligned correctly, and then just tighten up all the bolts on the top. Something else that's really annoying is the whole thing's black, and they give you silver bolts that you can see. The other thing that's not good is all these spacers are hollow, so all that's going to happen is water's going to collect in there. So I do plan to fill those with silicone, but for now we'll just get it all tightened down and take it for a spin and see if it makes it around the block. Okay, so the install is finished. I think it looks really good. It's a great looking rack. The installation leaves a lot to be desired. The installation took us about 5 hours, and that's with 2 of us. It is doable on your own, but having 2 people certainly makes it easier. But here's the finished product. I'm pretty happy with it. Just wish I'd got 2 hours of my life back from not having to deal with bad documentation and some bad decisions on the hardware. So I really don't see any good reason to use nutserts, riv nuts, whatever you want to call them. You have to be able to get to both sides of the metal to be able to move the airbags out of the way, so why not just use a straightforward nut and bolt. And we did have 2 of the cheaper aluminium nutserts fail on us, so we ended up using a grade 8 black bolt with a serrated nut, and that was a lot quicker, worked a lot better, and looks a lot better because there's no silver bolts. I did put tons of silicone on top of the bolts because the spacers are hollow, and the nut and the washer don't cover the slot entirely, so those are just going to fill up with water. And even though there's silicone at the bottom, I'm just not confident it's going to keep the water out. Unfortunately, I didn't have any black silicone, so right now I have white. I'll buy some black and take this off and redo it with black silicone when I get some. But yeah, end result is good. Some really poor documentation and components, let's put it that way.